I did a video on Mercury going retrograde a few days ago, and you'll find it. I'll put a link to it at the end of this. This is one of these compass videos. Today, February the 15th, and tomorrow, February the 16th, are important days, including February the 17th. Let's just say that February 16th, Pacific time, is an important day. At 3:33 a.m., I believe, Mars enters Capricorn, and then later that day, tomorrow, sometime in the afternoon, Mercury goes retrograde. These are both important events, Mercury going retrograde and Mars entering Capricorn. And I was going to do a video today on Mars entering Capricorn, but the energies of Mercury going retrograde are felt so palpably in very specific ways that I thought that is the video I need to do right now. So a larger video, longer video, more detailed video on Mercury's transit in Pisces, as I said, has already been done. It's titled Reckoning, and it's there in the library of current transits, and you can find it. And a link to that will be placed at the end of this video once I'm done processing it, once I've done recording it and uploads to YouTube and it gets processed. Here, these are general videos, so I have no way of knowing without talking to someone or looking at their chart how it is that this is going to impact each and every one of us. But let me, insofar as these are general videos, insofar as I find this process useful, and I think you guys find this process useful too, at least in the feedback that I get, let me take a stab at what it is that is going on. And I'm going to go from general to more specific. In other words, I'm going to go with information that's going to be useful to anyone, including people who don't have access to their chart because they don't know their birth time or they've never pulled their chart. And as this compass video, sort of a sign of the times video, is concerned, how it is that we might be feeling right now is concerned, as this video goes on, I'll become more specific to people who actually know where their chart is. I've described this before. A planet is going direct. From the way we're looking at it, it is going direct, and then when it goes retrograde, it looks to us like it's going backwards, and then it goes direct again. So a certain portion of the sky gets traveled 3 times. Direct, retrograde, and then direct again. The retrograde motion is an optical illusion because it just happens that our orbit around the sun and Mercury, in this case, or a planet's orbit around the sun, both planets are going around the sun in such a way that Mercury, which typically moves faster than the Earth, appears to us like 2 buses going at the same time starts to appear, even though it's moving at the same, it appears to us that Mercury is going backwards, but it is moving forwards. It's just we're both in that part of the orbit where a planet looks like it's going backwards, even though it's going forwards. To us, and astrology is done from our perspective, it looks like the planet is going backwards. When Mercury is going retrograde and direct, as I've mentioned before, days like tomorrow, and then March the 10th when Mercury goes direct again, these are all 2020 dates. Things ruled by Mercury tend to go awry because Mercury, the planet that makes certain things move, is not only is increasingly slow and then at a standstill. And this is the part of Mercury retrograde that everyone is familiar with. You know, we think we've left enough time for a meeting, or we've got everything planned, and technology breaks down and our phones break down and we have to upload a video, and then we find that this hasn't happened or that hasn't happened, or we didn't press the record button, or we're trying to catch a flight and we can't believe we read the time as 4 a.m. when it's 4 p.m. and our bags get lost, and the dishwasher arrived, but the manual says this, and when I call customer service, we have the most ridiculous phone call for 45 minutes with one party screaming at the other one because it's so unintelligible, or you called an Uber and it ended up somewhere else, or you're taking a bus and go somewhere, or you drive Uber and all of a sudden someone entered the wrong you know, all that kind of jazz and shenanigans becomes just that much more intense around these dates. And when Mercury's retrograde, lower intensity, but these kinds of things continue. Traffic jams and technology snafus and feeling like we agreed on one thing, but it's something else, or, you know, and typically, and it's worth mentioning to some extent, that when Mercury is retrograde, conventional wisdom states that it's not the best time to sign anything or agree with anything, because we're not processing things in a forward-looking manner, and a retrograde Mercury implies cloudy judgment, at least in terms of conventional astrology. And the danger or the risk that we're told is that when Mercury goes direct again, March the 10th, after that, details will emerge and clarity will emerge that wasn't there the first time. Not signing is always not possible. So the idea is, with retrogrades, some astrologers say, do things over 3 times. When Mercury is retrograde, when I have to do things that Mercury wants me to do, I somehow have to do them 3 times over. Not just once. I have to do it, and then I have to go back and look at it and do it again. Similarly, if something is given to you to review, or communication you're going to send out, or you really want to be clear and specific about certain things, or you have been given a contract to look at, or given something in writing to look at, there could be an idea or a notion that you have to somehow look at it multiple times over. Or a notion is that if you really do have to sign something no matter what, that you look at it absolutely thoroughly, with minute details, so that, and think about everything as best you can, so that when Mercury goes direct, you're not caught by any surprises. This is the least interesting part of the video. There is also this notion of the planet moving forward like a vehicle, and then all of a sudden stopping, and then going in reverse, and then reversing, and then going in direct, and then going direct. So you can use that as an analogy, that you've been traveling forward in a certain sense, and then you've stopped, and then you're going direct, and then you're going to start going again. As I mentioned in my reckoning video, Venus has already gone over Pisces from the middle of January to the beginning of February, and at some point close to the end of January, it conjuncted Neptune. So one part of the narrative, either this means that creatively this could have been a very profound time for certain people who work in creative fields, or musically or artistically, or a Venusian-Neptunian merger can be extraordinarily fertile, fecund in terms of creativity and being in communication with one's muses. But for a lot of people, there could have been something that has been at work in January, since January, increasing as we go to the end of January, that has a certain element of deception, perhaps, or smoke and mirrors, or cloak and daggers, or with Neptune, something, it implies a loss of some sort. And because we're talking Venus, that could be money, it could be relationships, it could be opportunities, sneaky business. Mercury coming into Pisces has not yet met up with Neptune. All these planets that are going to go through Pisces, the sun is going to come into Pisces a few days from now. We're going to have a new moon in Pisces on the 23rd. Mercury hasn't quite made it to that point of deceit yet, or hasn't made it to Neptune yet, but it is going retrograde. And there's something about this retrograde that reminds me of those cartoons. You know why you have these cartoon characters that are zipping along and doing things, and then all of a sudden they come to a screeching halt. And then they do this kind of stationary thing. And then they turn around and decide that they have to go back to either get something or look at something or something along those lines. And this Mercury retrograde has that kind of feeling where we've been moving forward. Something happened in January that could have been creatively really rich as you headed to the end of January, or something happened in January that could have an element of murkiness and deceit and potentially loss, or not materially speaking, relationship-wise speaking, materially speaking, not helpful, since we're living in 3D reality, and both material, money, luxuries, things that Venus is responsible for in relationships, are important to us. Neptune's trickery is always typically about, you know what, you'll be fine without this somehow, but it's not helpful. In practical terms, not helpful. Mercury coming in here into Pisces has certainly started to make us, certainly started to make our mind try and catch up with whatever it is that's been going on. In addition, thematically, whatever's going on in Pisces is linked to crises created here in 2015, 2016. A lot of this is repeated from that reckoning video, but it bears repeating. I do these compass videos so that for some people at least, hopefully for most people, they don't feel like they're going crazy as I describe the energy of the time. And the time is today, February the 15th. 15, 16, 17, thereabouts. I'm going to do a separate video on Mars in Capricorn. So as our minds have been trying to grapple with, process, talk about, question, phone calls, writing, email, texts, understand, trying to figure out what has been going on in this part of the chart, somehow thematically linked to Pisces-related crises and events, 2015, 2016, end of 2015, first 3 quarters of 2016. Last year around this time, March, April around this time, again Mercury went retrograde. Let's just call it murky business that came into play again at the end of January, and our minds are trying to process it. All of a sudden at this point in time, it's gone. And right now, it's just this uncomfortable, I don't know, I don't like it, I'm not comfortable, and I have just stopped. And for the next 3 weeks, till March the 10th, we are going to backpedal and go, wait, what was that? What could have happened? What could be going on? Let me go back over this. Let me go back over these degrees. Let me reverse the Jeep, or like that cartoon character, let me just kind of spin around and travel back and look at this in greater detail and try and break this down and investigate it. Re-look at things. This is a common thing with Mercury retrograde, the idea of re-look, review. Regurgitate, recommunicate, recheck, whatever it is. Now on March the 3rd, Mercury, a retrograde Mercury, moves back from Pisces into Aquarius. On March the 10th, it goes direct. And on March the 16th, it's back in Pisces till April the 10th, I believe. So whatever's going on right now that is somehow linked to 2015, 2016, and somehow linked to March, April of last year, and may even be linked to other retrograde time periods like the one we had in October, November, could even be linked to the full moon lunar eclipse in Cancer, because these narratives kind of build. Whatever murky business showed up again at the end of January that our mind has been trying to process till now, we've kind of gone, something's not right. That's how it feels right now. And for the next 3 weeks, we're going to do this kind of review. It's not over. Some elements of this are going to come up next year as well, and maybe even the year after that. But when eclipses and crises like this are created and Mercury goes retrograde repeatedly in signs, as it does for a period of time, we're dealing with things that aren't always, we're not going to have all the answers immediately. We're dealing with, things have to be unpacked. And we're going into this next round of unpacking and investigating now. So for the next 3 weeks, do not be surprised if whatever it is that has been bothering you or becoming increasingly clear to bother you becomes clear and then becomes murky again, and right now you've just stopped and gone, what was that I just saw on the way here? And as you go back and take a look at that over the next 3 weeks, just be prepared that that's where things are going. So if you find yourself suspended right now, and if you find that what I've said so far resonates, then know that it is part of the energy of the time, hence this idea of a compass video. Now, for people who know their charts and understand them, look at where the sign of Pisces is in your chart and what house it occupies. Because chances are this Mercury retrograde and everything that I've described, 2015, 2016, last March, April, shenanigans in January, and whatever's going on now, all kind of has this link up to this part of the chart. It'll be helpful to you. Again, it'll give you confirmation that this is where things are playing out because they're somehow meant to. And this video might help you understand how to deal with this energy and understand that over the next 3 weeks. Right now it's suspension, and then there's going to be a period of let me open this, and things that emerge when Mercury is retrograde aren't necessarily clear or clarifying, but it's a necessary process. The relative clarity and the relative settling of the murkiness will occur in April. Okay, I will leave it at this. If you found this video helpful, feel free to share it, talk about it, bring people to it, like it on YouTube or Facebook or Twitter, whatever, however, share it. Subscribe to my YouTube channel if you found this useful. Click on the bell icon next to the subscribe button if you want to know when I do my next video. Use my email address in the description area to contact me if you'd like a personal reading, or you'd like me to make an easy-to-use version of your chart, or to inquire about rates. And I will leave it at that. And the next video is going to be about Mars in Capricorn, which also happens tomorrow.